Once again, we've had disgraceful scenes play out in the Senate, which once upon a time was that genteel upper house that stayed above the ugly shenanigans of the House. Now the Senate seems to be the place for political mavericks, misfits and maniacs. Have a look at this.
The fact that you would say just weeks ago to Senator Faruqi, off back to Pakistan, you're not just vindictive, mean, nasty, you bring disgrace to the human race.
Lidia Thorpe ripped up Hansen's motion and threw it in her face before making her feelings known as she left the chamber.
Extraordinary, isn't it? The issue today was Pauline Hanson tabling documents that raise questions about the eligibility of former Labor Senator, now independent, Fatima Payman, about her eligibility to sit in Parliament. Payman was born in Afghanistan and came to Australia as a young refugee. And as we know, many politicians who were found even unknowingly to hold dual citizenship, well, they had to quit Parliament in recent years, and some of them were then re-elected.
The urgent investigation into Senator Payman's eligibility to sit in this Parliament under Section 44. Australians deserve to know that every member of this chamber is eligible under the Constitution, no exceptions. Senator Payman's situation, through you, Chair, raises serious concerns. If she had been elected during the citizenship crisis of 2016-17, there is no doubt her case would have been referred to the High Court to review.
Yeah, the Section 44 questions about Payman are hardly novel. Such queries have been made over many politicians from a wide range of national backgrounds. But Payman reckons focusing on her is racist.
She has said, "I believe we're in danger of being swamped by Asians," in her first speech. In 1998 policy speech, she said Aboriginality would no longer exist under her party's policies. In another statement, she says, "We're bringing in people from South Africa at the moment. There's a huge amount coming into Australia who have disease. They've got AIDS. If that is not racist, what is it?" Oh, it's not racist. Oh, somebody bring the dictionary because Senator Hanson does not know the definition of racism.
And on it went. Ugly stuff, totally uncalled for. But with this particular Senate, we better get used to it. Joining me now is the One Nation founder and leader, Pauline Hanson. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. The heart of the claim here from Fatima Payman is that it's racist to question her dual citizenship. Now, we've had so many politicians knocked out in the past, from the Greens bloke there in Western Australia to Barnaby Joyce and whatever. I don't think it was ever about race. It was about dual citizenship, right?
Exactly right. And Jackie Lambie, Malcolm Roberts from my party, they all were affected by it in the National Party, so everyone was affected by it. But, you know, when this was raised, her only defence for it was, I'm being racist, instead of dealing with the real issue here. And she waived some documents in the Parliament. I tried to table the documents. They stopped me. The Greens did. This was yesterday. Then I had to try it again today, which was successful with it. She waved papers around saying that I have the paperwork here and all the rest of it. And I said, well, table it. And she refused to table it, the documentation.
I mean, I agree with your point that it's not racist. Every senator has to prove that they're eligible under Section 44 if there are legitimate questions. But what about this? In the same way that it was really below par, that it was really, I suppose, ethically wrong to challenge Josh Frydenberg because of the questions about his mother's status coming to Australia as a refugee after the Holocaust, surely then it's below par to question Fatima Payman because she came from a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan as a refugee. Of course it's going to be difficult to get all the paperwork in order. Shouldn't she just be accepted as a single citizen of Australia?
No, sorry, I disagree with you, because even in 1998, I actually had my senator then elected to Queensland, Heather Hill, was challenged in the High Court, the only one, and therefore based on the fact she came out with her parents as a child and she hadn't renounced her British citizenship. So how ridiculous is this?
Well, it's a bit different when you're coming out as a refugee from a terrorist-controlled country as compared from a country.
She only applied to the embassy here, and they said, oh, well, because the Taliban over there never even attempted to write over there to get it, to best of my knowledge. Tell me if I'm different. in this, and then the solicitor just signed off on it. The documents have not been presented correctly, and since then, what has she done since it settled down over there to actually do everything in her efforts to renounce her citizenship with Afghanistan? I'm not going to accept this, Chris. I'm sorry. They set high standards for everyone else. If it was me or one of my members of Parliament, they would go after me and wouldn't let up until they got me. So no, I want everyone to be treated fairly.
They certainly would, but I would have thought, just as it was with Josh Frydenberg, the refugee status has to play a role here. I want to move on because one of the ugly slurs that was thrown at you today was that you were convicted of racism. The reason people are able to say that is because of that federal court finding against you when you were challenged by Mehreen Faruqi, the Green senator. I've got here in my hands the paperwork of your appeal. You're appealing that decision, and I've had a look through it. It's quite a long series of documents, but you're essentially appealing every part of that judgment, that the thing was fundamentally wrong because nothing you said was about race. It was all about an immigrant complaining about the country, and then why not go back to where you came from?
Well, that's right. So it's quite extensive. I think there's 14 points on the appeal where the judge erred in his decision-making and what he based it on. So therefore, you know, we're appealing this in the High Court, which won't come up before the courts till about August next year of 2025. So we've... Chris, who knows where it's going to go? All right, all I can do is push forward with this. And another thing, as I said, people, it's not about Pauline Hanson. I warn people that who's going to be next. Are you aware that Peter Dutton has now been taken before the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity, the same thing, under 18C? Yeah,
no, there's a similar thing. This is why it's concerning because, and one of the key points, I suppose, to summarise your appeal is that how can they talk about you focusing on someone's colour or their religion when you did not mention either their colour or their religion?
That's exactly right. And if you look at 18C, it doesn't come under religion at all. It's not even mentioned. But the judge kept pursuing down that rabbit hole, or her defence barrister kept heading down the rabbit hole about Muslims. It had nothing to do with it. And they had to use that, even the evidence that she was given from people that she solicited to give up their affidavits based on what their feelings were. Had nothing to do with it. The whole thing was it was a whole sham as far as I'm concerned. That's why I've got to fight it on behalf of the Australian people for our freedom of speech and freedom of opinion. Yeah, I'm glad you're appealing it because it's going to be a fascinating case. Thanks so much for joining us, Pauline. Appreciate it. There's Senator Pauline Hanson there, One Nation leader, joining us live from Canberra, where, as you've seen, it was a pretty fiery day in the Senate, pretty ugly day, to be frank.